Hello. The Divine Code reading for April 26th, pages 647 and 648. We are in the chapter Theft Incurred by False Measurements and the Prohibition of Cheating or Misinforming Another Person. Topic number 16. One who sells merchandise that is defective and does not inform the buyer is considered as having stolen from him. The Rambam Laws of Selling, 18:1, Shulchan Aruch Koshan Mishpat, chapter 228, and Shulchan Aruch Harav, Laws of Cheating, topic 11. Conversely, it is forbidden to buy with a forged check or counterfeit money. It is also forbidden to exchange these false items for real money because it is stealing from the other party. Afterwards, he may unknowingly do business with the false money or checks, and others will be cheated. See Shulchan Aruch Harav, Laws of Cheating, topic 10. Likewise, one who pays with a check, while knowing that he will not have enough money in the bank account to cover the amount that person has committed theft and deception. So if either the merchandise is not the right merchandise, if somebody sells a book and there's pages missing from the book, or they sell a car and the car doesn't work, there's something wrong with it, and he doesn't inform the buyer of this problem, that's would be cheating the person, and that would be considered a type of theft. And also, if the other person on the other side of the exchange used items that were not, used money or a check, like a bank draft, that can be used similar to money. If these things are not proper, that's also considered cheating. It's considered like theft. Topic number 17. Any deception or misrepresentation in business is forbidden, such as externally enhancing the appearance of an animal or vessel so it looks nicer than it actually is. For example, to color used vessels so they appear new, or to feed an animal liquefied bran so it will appear fatter. Since doing so, in doing so, he deceives the buyer to believe that the item is new or improved in value. So if the person is trying to create the impression of the value of the item is different from what it really is. So the first case, it's an item that doesn't work right. The item should be okay, but there's something wrong with it. This case, there's something wrong with it, but they're creating the look as if it's okay, or it's different, it's higher value than it actually is. The other one is an item that looks good on the outside and they're just allowing it to go through. So this would be, with like liquefied bran, they might add salt to the food so that the animal drinks a lot of fluid, making it heavier. So when they put it on the scale and they say, okay, this is a 100-pound goat, so we're gonna, or whatever goats weigh, so we're going to pay a certain price for it, which is different from the 90-pound animal that it really is. That kind of stuff, or just if the purpose is to make it look as if it's something different from what it really is. It is, however, permitted to color new vessels so they appear nicer. And included in this permission is the practice of giving discount on another item if one buys the first one. This is even permitted if doing so raises the price, since the buyer accepts the higher price of the new item because the nicer appearance or the extra item is included. Rambam Laws of Selling 18.2, Shulchan Aruch, Kosher Mishpat, chapter 228, and Shulchan Aruch Harav, Laws of Cheating, topic 18. So if the person is just making the item, he's not deceiving the person. If he takes a car and he puts a whole new paint job on it, and it makes it look like it's a brand new car, or it's a much nicer car than it really is, that would not be considered appropriate. But if he's just fixing it up in a lesser amount, that it just makes it look nicer, but it's not, there's a certain threshold where it's being deceptive versus it just cleaning it up to make it look nice, so it doesn't look horrible, but it's not creating the false impression of the quality of the product that's being sold. And hopefully, if the person is buying something at a higher price, he knows that he understands that he should be able to buy it at the higher. He should buy it at the higher price because it's clean, not because he thinks that the car is, or the item being sold is a different value than it really is. There's a certain amount that a person is willing to pay within. So the seller is trying to bring it up to the higher value that is appropriate for what is actually being sold, without creating the impression that the item is actually a higher value than it really is. Topic number 18. It is forbidden for a meat vendor to soak raw meat in water in order that it should appear fresher and fatter. And this is a major question today. There are people that it's common in, like, the poultry industry, to inject fluid into the flesh, and that's supposed to make it juicier. It's supposed to improve the quality, but it also creates the false sense of the proper weight of the meat. And there's government regulations as to what they're allowed to do, and there's a lot of controversy about it also. So there needs to be a standard, and it needs to be known to everybody what's going on. If the person does it outside of the standard, he knows that, hey, if I inject fluid into this meat, I can make more money. If that's the idea, and he's not telling people what he's doing, that would be cheating. Needless to say, it is forbidden for a meat vendor to soak the meat in water before freezing it. So the customer would be paying extra for the weight of the ice in the meat. This is pure deception, unless it is the known practice of all butchers in the area. As Shulchan Aruch Harav, Laws of Cheating, topic 19. So, because of concerns regarding what's called freezer burn, that's the dehydration of the product when it's in the freezer. If it's in the freezer for a period of time, it's not properly wrapped. It can dry in the freezer, and that causes problems for the product. And there's another problem, oxidization. It's called rancidity, which can also occur in the freezer. So to prevent these things, they can soak it in water, and they can do what's called glazing. That's where a frozen item is dipped in water, or water sprayed on the frozen item, and it creates an icy outer shell. These are normal business practices. However, the price, the weight of the item needs to be weighed before the glaze is put in, or somehow they can figure out the tare weight of what the glaze weighs, the ice weighs, and therefore can subtract that from the weight of the product. But if they're just doing it for the purpose of increasing the weight of the item, and they're making extra money, cheating the customer, that's theft. So it all has to be regulated, and all has to be standardized, that this is how it's done. and that everybody understands it as such, then it's acceptable. Topic number 19. It is forbidden to mix old merchandise with new merchandise, such as fresh produce with old produce, so the buyer will think that he is receiving only fresh produce. So if it's being done in a deceptive manner, and they want to sell, they got a bushel of apples that are getting a little old, and they got some new apples, and they mix it together, probably putting some of the new apples on top, so it creates a deception of that the entire bushel is in good shape. That would be cheating. That would be cheating the customer. However, if the merchant receives stock produce from a number of providers and then mixes them all together, this practice is known, and this practice is known to all. He does not need to notify his customers. But if he mixes a significant amount of the lower grade produce and sells a lot as if it is higher grade produce, this is considered theft and deception. So with produce that often has a short shelf life, this is it's difficult to mix it all together without creating problems. But if that's what people know that they're getting, if it's items that have longer shelf life, so that mixing together might be acceptable. And in our modern day commodity world, they might mix together different grains, for example, and they're mixing it together in order to create a consistent product. And so if they always had if they had the higher grain at one time and lower grain at another, it's not consistent, and they have a hard time with today's modern business world of, today people expect consistency, so they mix together things in order to create a consistency, and the customer knows that they're going to get a consistent product, and that would be acceptable. As long as he's giving the customer a consistent product. But if he's not giving if he kind of waves this way and that way, he needs to tell the customer what's happening. Otherwise, that's considered cheating. Topic number 20. Oh, and the last one was from Shokunor Karav, Laws of Cheating, topics 20 and 21. Okay, topic number 20 in the Divine Code. It is forbidden to sell land or merchandise to another person if it has a lien against it, since the seller provides this information to the buyer, unless the seller provides this information to the buyer. It is also the responsibility of the buyer to investigate this. Nevertheless, it is clear that under normal circumstances, a buyer would not want to give money for something that would later have to be disputed in court with others, and therefore the seller must provide this information. And that's the Shokunor Karav, Laws of Cheating, topic 19. So in America, for example, if there's a lien, okay, let's say somebody does work, they put a new roof on a house, and there's credit terms. So the buyer, the owner of the house, will pay over the next 5 years a certain amount of money for the roof, and the lien is he's using the house as a guarantee, as collateral, that he will pay off the loan. So let's say after 2 years, he still owes 3 years of payments, and he sells the house to somebody. Well, the house has the lien. The lien is the house is being used as collateral in a loan, and the buyer of the house, if the payments on the roof are not paid, the buyer on the house will wind up having the house being used as collateral. The buyer of the house needs to know that's part of the situation for the house when he's buying it. Otherwise, it's like a it's like a defective piece of merchandise that the buyer afterwards finds out that something is broken. That's considered cheating. Also, here it would be considered cheating if the buyer is not informed that there's a lien against it. And in America, for example, the major liens are against houses, or they're also against automobiles. And in America, the titles for a house or for an automobile would involve, well, especially in cars, are written right on the title. And in a house, there's an investigation that is taken to verify the status of the house. It's called a title search, where they investigate to see if there's any questions about the ownership of the house, and the liens against it are part of the title search. And a bank is not going to guarantee a loan of a house and for the new owner, unless they know that the old owner doesn't owe money using the house as collateral. But this would also be for other items as well. If something else is used as collateral and there's a lien against it, then the buyer of that item needs to be informed, and the buyer should maybe ask about it too if it's something that's normally used as collateral. Topic number 21. Some food merchants set out a tray of sample food for their customers or potential customers who come by or into their shops. If someone goes to the shop and eats of these samples when he already knows that he's not going to buy one or buy anything there, he is considered a deceiver and a thief, since the business owner does not consent to this. And Ben Ish Kai, Parsha Titze, Law 9, see Tractate Shabbat, page 129, and Shokanor Korav, or Akaim 156:20, that if someone is starving and he only has a few coins, which are not enough to make a food purchase, he may eat one of the samples and offer the merchant a coin in return. He can repeat this at other merchants until he feels his life returning. This is only allowed because it is a life-threatening manner. So, okay, so from that, when we say it's allowed if it's a life-threatening, he's allowed to go from one merchant to another, eating samples. He has to offer the merchant a coin for it. Most likely the merchant's going to say, these are samples. What are you talking about? But the idea is that's the case if it's a life-threatening case. So if it's just a person that's hungry for lunch and he decides to go through the marketplace and just sample, take the samples as he walks through the marketplace, but he doesn't plan to buy anything. It's just how he plans to eat lunch. That would be deceptive, because the understanding is the merchant puts a sample out to let customers know what something tastes like or how something is, not just to feed people walking by. So it's a sort of the social contract understanding that's what the merchant's doing, and therefore the person that's eating it is part of that social contract. So if somebody is outside of that social contract, now if it's the practice of merchants to put out food for people that are hungry, because they're very charitable society, and that's what merchants do, then that's a different situation. But if it's a sample for the purpose of letting a person know how the stuff tastes so that they can then be a customer, a potential customer, the person has to be an actual potential customer before it's appropriate to try the samples. I'm not sure if the divine code goes into the question of window shopping. Similarly, if a person is a window shopper and he walks into a merchant to ask a bunch of questions about something that they're not actually interested in buying, that's also considered deception. And it's considered wasting the person's time, which is also a form of cheating. So that'd be similar to the person that's eating samples. Thank you.